Ladies and gentlemen, I am one blessed man. Do you know why? Because the gentleman on your right is one of my dearest friends, Steve the Homer True. I get to hang out with him today. And this gentleman, who I've only met relatively recently in church, is becoming a dear friend. And Brett Young is behind the camera, and he's a dear friend. But this is not about me. It's about my faith. It's Homer's idea. My faith with Homer and Pip. And today we're honored to have Dennis Nelson as our guest. And as always, the first question goes to the man who originated this, which we hope will be of value to you in your faith journey. Homer?
They probably get tired of this if they've seen them, because it starts the same for everyone.
Except I didn't mention that you hit the golf ball farther and straighter,
Yes.
and that's why you get the first question.
But it's just, the concept is everybody's story is different, and we assume the same with you, and it's, where did it begin? When do you first remember faith being part of your life?
At a very young age. We grew up in a Catholic family, my 6 kids, and my mom would tote us 8 miles to the local Catholic church because the hometown I grew up in didn't have one when we first lived there. So she would put 6 kids in the car on a Sunday morning and we'd go off to church. We just didn't know any different. So I go back to early childhood.
But at some point, you start thinking about it. At some point, it's your faith, or the start of the development of your faith.
I think when I went off to college, that you recognize that you're no longer part of that clan going to church every Sunday. It's on you. Are you going to go to Sunday Mass? Are you going to believe it? You're getting exposed to different people's values and their ideas, and what do you hold true to? What do you hold near to your heart? And I went to Whitewater, Wisconsin Whitewater, and happened to meet a very nice woman who I ended up being with now for 39 years, who also had that faith, and that it just kind of went from there. So I would say college is when that first came to me to say, I got to hold true to what I've been taught.
What did she believe? What did you believe? Faith means a lot of things. We've had somebody who said the confession is the most important thing. One's own structure of what hit you, or maybe it was something she said. Now we have 2 different faiths.
Well, I think it's the belief in that there's life after death. We both came from very little, lost relatives at young age, and that faith that there's more to the world than what we're seeing right here. And when you get home and you're together alone and you say, well, what are we in this for? It's not for what's here on earth, it's what is going to come. And then the idea, as you go, you guys have kids, and then you're like, what are you going to explain to your kids about what are you going to church for? What is this about? And certainly the individual, like confessions and the normal Catholic practices, those were important. But I think for us it was that there's more to life than this. That we want to live to see the live with Jesus in heaven.
When Pip brings somebody, I know it's also about my faith, but my story. You have a story.
I do. To get started?
Sure.
Thank you for your willingness to share it.
Yeah, and I would tell you up front, it's I don't go here often to give you the details that I will share today, because it's still a little bit emotional. But my mom was very much into her faith. And as I said, I was lucky enough to meet my lovely bride, Nan, and so it continued. But my mom's journey was always going to church, always being involved with something at church, the fall dinner, the building of a new parking lot, whatever it was. And she was recruiting all the time. You'd come to church, right? So people knew her in the community for her faith. And she was... not only that, she volunteered at the school. She was Grandma Ann at the school. So here's this beautiful lady that I was very close to, and I said, what do you see in church? Was the question you asked me. Why are you going all the time to church? I didn't know. I thought, well, you're going to Mass, get communion, the normal, just kind of almost passe through being Catholic. And fast forward, she went back to selling real estate at age 61. She was a stay-at-home mom, raised the 6 kids on a farm, and called me one day and said, I'm going to go sell real estate. I said, great. It's a great thing to do. You're personable and you've got personality, and you know the area. I'm sure it'll work well. So, again, she had been doing this for a while and now was 71 years old and was going to be retiring that summer. And then the fateful day came. We were driving back from Illinois. A friend of mine, our kids played hockey, and we were driving back from a hockey game in Illinois, and we got the call that she had perished. She was dead in a fire in Cambridge, Wisconsin. And the first was, she probably went back to get her purse, and she got caught in the fire. And I knew something that just didn't register right, that my mom wouldn't have valued what's in her purse that much. So what had happened is that a man who had been released from Joliet Federal Prison for sexual assault and attempted murder was traveling with another acquaintance through Cambridge, a community, and somehow their paths crossed, and he called her on the phone, on her cell phone, and asked her to show a house on the lake. And when Mom arrived, he proceeded to beat her to death with the fireplace poker, strangled her, and then left, came back because he had forgotten his cell phone, and trapped her into a bedroom. She was still breathing, and lit the house on fire. So my mom was literally beaten to death. And got that call from Nan, called me, and so that drove to the scene that night, and those details are something that when you watch the news every day and you see people whose spouses are killed, senseless murder, just the violence that's in this world today, you become part of it. So that's when Nanny and I sat down and we said, okay, what are we going to do? We're now, it didn't happen to me, it happened to my mom. And I knew my mom's faith would be, she was ready. She had gone to Mass that day, she had taken communion that day, and she probably didn't do anything to deserve this other than she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But it was the fork in the road. Where are you going? What are you going to do? And I got my car and I drove to church. And I hadn't been going to morning Mass. I was a weekly Mass person, and that's how it got started. I started going to daily Mass, and I just said, Lord, I got to put this in your hands. Yeah, I got 3 young kids. I got a lovely wife, and that's how it got started. We went to the funeral, my mom's funeral, and they had it in a gymnasium. There were so many people, and every person that came through the line, people waited hours and hours to just pay their respects, and it was always led with your mom was a faith person. Your mom's faith saved me many times. I talked to your mom. I prayed with your mom. She always referred me back to the Lord. And I thought, I want to be remembered that way. How I want to go. I want that at the end of my time to say that's what it was. And all of a sudden it hit me, that's why Mom was going to church. She was preparing this whole time for whatever would come, right? And one in particular, woman that I didn't know and it was 4 hours at the wake. And she was the last one in line, and she walked up and she said, I just want to tell you what your mom did for my son. And Mom volunteered at the school, and she would be able to tell you, hey, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. She would put your arm around you and say, hey, look, I know you're behind in school. She wouldn't make you feel, less educated than the other kids. And she said, Grandma Ann took my son aside and got him to read at the level of the kids and got him back into the main flow, and did it without ever being condescending or making this young man feel bad. And she waited 4 hours to tell us that. And she said, and my mom would pray with her. Okay, I get the message. So that's kind of how it got started. And then the faith journey, the little stories that happened along the last years during that time, just continue to emphasize and put a real an arrow, if you will, on the faith. This is the way to go.
Dennis, if I may interject here, the range of emotions on a human level that you had to have had, I can't begin to imagine. How did your faith play into this, and would you be kind enough to share in your own humble way what you did in the courtroom for the man who took your mother's life?
Sure. There, again, another crossroads that happens. It was not only that Mom was killed, car accident, sickness, illness, we lose people. Mom was murdered, and so there was a trial. And a real test of where you are is, say Our Father, And our Father who art in heaven, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And then you take communion. Now, do you believe that or do you not believe that? And as the trial went on, I would go to daily mass, and I said, you've got to get past these anger, this I want to jump over the chair and let's go at it, that type of thing, because that's your natural instinct that you're going to defend what happened. And it was like a peace came upon me that said, no, Dan, you have to forgive this guy. He can't be amongst people, he can't be in society, he doesn't follow the rules, but he's still he's the one, the sheep, he's the one sheep that's gone. That's why the Lord came here. He didn't come for us, he came for the person that's awry. So when we finally, the proceedings were done, and it was a sentencing phase of the trial, and I brought him a Bible, and I addressed him, and literally he was as close as we are right here standing there, and I said, you're going to be incarcerated for the rest of your life. Here's the Bible, start reading it and ask the Lord for forgiveness. He'll forgive you. And I said, if you accept Jesus into your life, when you get to heaven, I'm sure my mom will greet you, put her arms around you, and forgive you as well. But you can't walk amongst men because you don't follow the rules, but that you have all the rest of your life to try to get there. And then I handed him the Bible. So that gave me such a peace, and I was able then to go to say the Our Father with a clear heart and take communion. So and that was a monumental time in my life, and I think it also showed my wife and my kids that you can't live the rest of your life with this anger. You're going to just be consumed with that anger. You got to just kind of move on, if you will.
Have they handled it the same way you have?
My family?
Yes.
If on a scale from 1 to 10, if you'd meet my wife, Homer, my wife's a 10, I'm a 2. My wife handles it great. Her faith is as much as my mom's was, and I'm inspired on a daily basis with how faithful and just what a great heart my wife has. And I do think my kids have also been able to move on. They're loving people. They're not angry. They don't go through the day, why me, what happened? So yes, I do think they have handled it as well. Now, are there emotions? Sure. And are there triggers, if you will, that like Christmas or a smell of a baked pie and stories about grandma, and that's hard. And we pick and choose but we always end up very positive. My wife would always say, would Anne really have wanted you to be that way, Dan? Would your mom really have wanted you to do this? That's her favorite line, and she uses it often, but in a positive way. So yeah, the answer to the question is 100%. I think they've handled it well.
When you gave him the Bible, the way you presented it, it seems like it was easy. Whereas I'm thinking, man, that had to be tough. Are you thinking, this is what I'm supposed to do, but I don't want to do it? Or that's what I'm curious of that time, and whether you had gotten to the point where you could do it, or how difficult it was even at that moment.
To answer the side of the question, how difficult it was, extremely. The day after the event, when my mother was murdered that day, I was standing in the shower. They arrested him, and my wife walked right into the bathroom, and she said, "You are not going." She knew that my purpose that day was to get up to go to that trial and potentially jump over that chair and take care of this. And so it was extremely hard. Emotion, crying, talking to different people, Father Joe, Father Tom, Father Tony, a lot of people that I confided in to get that confidence. And I remember buying the Bible from the bookstore. I was shaking. I got to the car and I didn't take it out of the bag. I was like, can I go through with this? But I think where it goes back to is, what if I don't go through with it? I've got to prove to myself at some point that this is real. And then it was like, what's the harm? What if he throws the book back at me? What if he flips me off? What if all the things that he could do, or not take it at all? I can't control that. But yeah, it was hard, and I admit I was shaking. Even when I had it in my hand, I physically was shaking. So
This is amazing.
it's the right thing to do.
Still amazing. I have a theory that one of God's greatest strengths, I would even say his greatest strength, though I don't want to get into a theology lesson, is his ability to give people peace of mind. It's not done the same way to every person. And to me, you're the perfect example. I don't think it's possible to feel the way you do and to act the way you did without a faith. And that's just observing people. Somehow, maybe you've already answered this, he gave you a peace of mind when you didn't think it was possible.
Correct. I agree with that statement. Yeah. I witnessed at the junior retreats in the spring. Cindy Petrie, our youth administrator at St. Anthony's, has asked me to witness and tell the story. And the first time I did it, I didn't think I was going to be able to speak. I did the first time I ever talked publicly about it. And I thought, this isn't going to go real well. And when I saw what it did and what the kids came back after I said it, I thought, this is another step. This is part of that journey, that not only do this, but to witness and tell them that it can be done.
How did they come back? What about the kids and what they did?
Some of them were so emotional they couldn't speak. I had kids that I didn't know give me a hug. You could not an embrace, just a touch. And several of them came up and said, I really feel sorry for what happened to your mom. And then I said, well, the message isn't what happened, because we can't change that. It's the message is, what are we going to do with it? And you've got to, because they're coming into that stage of life as juniors that they're going to get exposed that I did at Whitewater. What's their decisions going to be made? And I think they need to be able to look at folks and say, he did it, so it can be done. It's not an easy thing, but yeah, somebody did it. And you see it on TV every now and then. Someone will do that forgiveness thing, and I go, I know what that person's thinking. I know what went through their mind to be able to show up and do that. It wasn't just a 30-second decision. It was a lot of thought and a lot of angst.
How long have you been doing this? What's been the process since then?
Mom was killed in 2008, and I have been going to daily mass and telling my story pretty much since then. The trial was 1 year, almost a year to the date of her murder that I did the Bible. And I carried the documents that I brought in today, Tom. I carried those with me in my backpack. I show people. I said, if I tell the story, I said, this isn't, I'm not making this up. I have proof. I want to show you written proof that this actually happened. Because I think it's important that they know that it wasn't made up.
You can't have not had some days since then where other thoughts enter your mind, yet it would appear to me that you've beaten them all and have that same level of peace of mind even today.
You know, say you're watching the news tonight and someone is murdered. My first thought is, I'd like to pray for the person that was the murderer. The family, we are not going to change that. We'll get back, but that person that did that murder, I hope that they'll find Jesus and ask for his forgiveness. That's the part. That's the beauty. You can be forgiven. And so, and Tom knows that in morning mass, we'll pray for the perpetrator at times. And people will, that's a shock. People will come out and go, well, I can't believe you prayed. Well, yes, that's what it's about. And yeah, it's not difficult. It's not easy, Homer. Watching the news, I didn't watch the news for a long time because it's painful. I know what somebody got a phone call, your son's gone. He was murdered.
Dennis, we can edit this out if you don't want to go there, but you shared with me this morning that you will be making a special trip and you're looking for something. Perhaps it relates to closure, so if you don't mind sharing that and what your emotions might be if you've thought about it. You may not know until you get there.
So everybody goes, when you go to Mass, you say your prayers. You pray for people, you pray for peace. And I started that in 2009, that I gave him the Bible. And I'd like to finish that. Mike Whitty, it was a friend of mine from church, and Father Tony, and I have talked about maybe making the journey to the jail where he's incarcerated and asking if he's there yet. Asking if he's accepted the Lord and asked for forgiveness. And if he said no, I would say, well, can we do it now? Can we get there? Can we at least acknowledge the journey? And did you keep the Bible? Have you read it? Are you seeing, the pastor inside I'd like to make the trek. That would be closure for me. And I've said it at the witness. I've said, I can guarantee you that my mom had that faith that if he does ask for forgiveness and the Lord will forgive him, that she would embrace him, that she would hug him. Good things happen to bad things happen to good people, right? Well, you had to ask yourself, why did it happen to my mom? I would ask all the time, why? Here she's just doing everything that she possibly could, right? She's a nice lady, she goes to church, why? And I don't have the answer, but I'll offer at least a thought of kind of in the same loop of why I want him. I think it got him off the streets. Mom's where she wanted to be. She's in heaven. She's happy. She's seeing her sister, the relatives. She's with the Lord. She's praying for people every day. She was the one that stopped him from harming additional people. We believe that Mom was his 6th victim since he had been released from federal prison. It was an escalating violence against women. And when she met him, God sent his best soldier and got him off the street. And I think that that's truly there. So yes, I'd like to go. I'm shaking right now because that would be a trip I would have to prepare for and really, because what if he's not acceptable and it gets, it would go south, and that I wouldn't want to be involved with too much. I'd excuse myself. I don't want to go there if it's not good,
You're determined to do more amazing things.
Yes, I'm going to close that loop. Homer, I'm going to close that loop. Yeah, I pray for him every day. When we raise the chalice during Mass and you pray for forgiveness and you pray that the Lord will forgive, he is the first name I mention every day.
I think we both know enough as interviewers where, you've reached that stage where it does not get any greater, more impactful, more powerful. If I may say, I didn't have the privilege of meeting Mom, but I think we met her today through you. Her faith, her heart lives on through you, and I know that you have touched people here, and for that we are deeply grateful. Dennis Nelson, thank you, and God bless you in your journey and your family as well. It's been a privilege and a gift to get to know you as a friend.
Thank you, and I want to say the same. I've from afar, like I said when we met, I'm just a little bit humbled today, and it was just a pleasure letting me share my story. And my final comment would be is just my family, my wife, and my kids are my inspiration. They really have kept more than you'll know.
Now I know when to stop.
I was going to say, I have nothing to add other than I look forward to somebody telling us one day this changed their life.
Yes, we hope that's the case with one of you out there. Maybe sometime you'll be sharing your faith. This has been my faith with Homer and Pitt. Thanks for watching.